What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for watching and supporting. We got a great video for you guys today. We're gonna talk about how you can make 100K a year driving for Uber and Lyft. Before we jump into this video, we wanted to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Solo. Solo is a great way to make more money as a driver. It's gonna get you access to guaranteed pay and a lot of other amazing features. One of the best parts is our viewers are gonna get $10 just for signing up using the link in the description below. So check that out, guys. It'll be worth your time. And let's jump into today's video. So what I wanted to do for you guys is basically talk a little bit about my journey and how I got to where I'm at using Uber and Lyft, but really how you can actually, I will say, the best way to make serious money doing this. Now, I'll start off by saying this video isn't going to be quite what you guys think it is, because you're not going to make 100K a year just driving for Uber. You would have to use both apps and probably log 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. And even at that point, I'm doubtful that you'd get there. But what I essentially did, I started as a full-time driver. This was back in 2016 now. I started as a full-time driver. I had a Nissan Altima. I had just gotten it at CarMax. Big mistake there. And I did full-time for about a year and a half. Ended up putting way too many miles on the car. I needed a bunch of repairs. I got in a really bad place where I lost a lot of money on that car because essentially there was just no point in putting about $4 or $5 grand in repairs into it. I may as well have just bought a new car, which was what the mechanics all recommended me to do. So it was probably in my second or third year after I was on my second or third car for Uber and Lyft where I was just like, this really doesn't make sense full time. I originally got into it because I was pursuing acting and I wanted flexibility to essentially make auditions. But what I learned that I think a lot of full-time drivers learn is that when you drive full-time, it really hits you hard down the road when you need a new vehicle, when you get those costly repairs. If you screw anything up on your taxes, you hit a point where you're paying a lot of money for something just to keep doing this. So in about my second or third year, I was like, you know, this really doesn't make sense. I need to find a way to make more money, but I also couldn't really justify just quitting and going and getting a job, because even that hiatus of getting a job and then waiting 2 weeks to get your first paycheck was almost too much. And I really just didn't feel like working a full-time job and then also doing a ton of Uber driving, you know, after my shift until I finally was caught up enough to fully quit. So what I did, and this is essentially the route I would recommend all of you to take, is I got a sales job. I got a part-time commission-only sales job. I talked to the owner and I told him what I was doing. I said, hey, you know, I do a lot of Uber driving. I'd really like to do some networking and see if I can, you know, get some sales doing this. It was for a solar company. They primarily were going door to door. And my thought process was, hey, the door-to-door rate can't be that high. Now, I have done door-to-door. It's actually a little bit better than you'd think. But my thought process was, I can make more genuine connections just driving Uber and talking about what I do. So why not give this a shot? The boss was cool with it. First couple of weeks were a little bit hard. I was also really learning the product and a lot of, you know, just absorbing information about what I was selling. But then in about my third week, I got my first sale. And it basically came very organically. Now, what I recommend when you're finding a sales job is find something where all you're really trying to do is sell an appointment. And this is exactly what we were doing. So there's a lot of jobs like this: roofing sales, most construction companies, windows, anything that goes door to door. Usually their big pitch is, hey, I'm not trying to sell you anything today. I'm just trying to set an appointment to give you some more information about what we do. This information could be helpful for X reason. And it, like I said, it's just free. But then once that, you know, nice, nifty salesman can get in the door and explain the benefits, a lot of times he can convince the homeowner to take the sale, right? So just starting with a position where all you're really doing is appointment setting. You're just selling the appointment. And this is a very, very easy transition to make as a salesman that's just doing Uber, like in the car. So essentially all I did is, for a while, I would just talk to people And the key is just getting them to ask what I do, or do you do this full time? A very common question that I'm sure you guys all run into. So I remember the first sale, which was really just setting the appointment that I made. Customer gets in my car, we start talking, hey, how's your day going today? Oh, it's pretty good, just trying to remember what they said there, just leaving work or just going to an event, whatever it was. A lot of chit chat, a lot of small talk. I'm asking them a lot of questions about what they do, just being a good listener, responding appropriately. And then finally they ask, oh, what is it that you do? I say, oh, well, I do this part-time, and, I actually sell solar, that's my main gig. I was like, I just do this because I am newer to sales, and this is just to supplement my income in the meantime. They're like, oh, very cool. Yeah, I've had an aunt that had solar before. It seems all right. And then again, hit them again with questions. Awesome. I mean, have you ever looked into it yourself? No, I had a lot of you guys come and knock on my door. It's just not my thing. No, I understand. And again, I could just have said, well, it's really great for XXXX reason. But no, instead I was just like, awesome. I mean, just out of curiosity, was there something you didn't like about it? I mean, if your aunt likes it, why? I'm just curious why you haven't looked into it yourself. They're like, well, I don't know. I don't want to make some big down payment on a product I don't need, and I just don't know if the technology is going to be around for a long time. And sir, listen, I totally understand. One of the greatest parts about solar is that it's no money down. You actually don't pay anything out of pocket. Government will actually give you a nice tax credit for having it as well, so you can even get some money back on your taxes. And I mean, really, if you think about it, if you're just taking your power bill and replacing it with the solar bill, kind of makes sense, doesn't it? And he's like, I actually didn't know that. And so long story short, I said, look, I'm not really in sales. All I really do is, set the appointment. And if you'd like, I can set up a quick appointment and we can get you that information just so that you know what it's really about. He said, yes. Bam. Set the appointment for, I think it was a week out. Salesman showed up, closed him. So for me, as an appointment setter, I would get $50 for appointment set that actually, showed up. And then I would get $1,000 if the deal closed. So off that one deal, I made $1,000, which would have been a lot of driving, as you guys know. I mean, to make $1,000 in a week, it's not 15 hours. You got to put in some decent hours of Uber or Lyft to actually make $1,000. So that, as an example, is something that I would recommend you guys pursue, because it's very easy to have those seamless conversations. And if you have something it might be tougher to sell vacuums from your car, but if you have something what I liked about solar is I wasn't selling the appointment and they didn't have to pay money to get started. There were some weird scenarios where some people would have to pay some money, but that was usually unemployed people or people on Social Security. But anyone who had relatively decent credit, relatively decent job, they would usually qualify, and they're really just swapping their bill. Another good example is roofing, because a lot of times insurance is going to cover the new roof, so you're not really asking people for money as much as you're saying, hey, the reality is you've got some wind or hail damage on your roof, hasn't been replaced in 10 years. You might as well take the new roof if your insurance is going to cover it, right? So stuff like that is going to be really easy to have a natural conversation. But the biggest key is you don't really want to talk about it. You want it to naturally come up in conversation. And the key to get to there is to ask them questions until they ask you questions. Can't force it, and you don't want to be pushy. But starting with just, hey, how's your day going? If you want any type of specific music, let me know. And then if they give you any type of conversation, yeah, it's going all right, man. How about yourself? Yo, it's all right. Yeah, I've been out here for a couple of hours. It hadn't been too busy, but you know what? I'm enjoying it. I'm in my car, AC's on, tune's on. Life could be worse, right? Absolutely. So yeah, man, I mean, have you lived here your whole life? Yeah, absolutely. And then what I would always ask there is, especially every city I've ever lived in is usually a transplant city. So in Phoenix, for example, it was very easy because most people had moved there recently. Awesome, what brought you out here? Because think about it, what usually makes people move? Work. Sometimes obviously other stuff, but awesome. So, my job brought me out here. Awesome, man. What is it that you do? Oh, I'm a this, I'm a that. Oh, cool. That's great. How long have you been doing that for? About 5-6 years or 10 years, 20 years. Awesome. Well, I imagine, if you've been in it that long, you probably enjoy it. And right about this point is where they're probably going to say, yeah, man, what about you? Do you do this full time? And bam, now I got them asking, that's right where I want them. No, I do this on the side. And I'm not gonna run you guys through the whole thing again, but I want you to get the idea of how easily you have a rare opportunity to network in this business of rideshare. Rare opportunity to make connections that are very tough to get in the sales world. I've done a lot of sales jobs. I've worked call centers. I've done door to door. It's very tough to just get an organic conversation going that easily. You have to be very good to go in super cold and get that convo going. That's the benefit of this. You get the conversation going. They already naturally have some level of trust in you if they got in your car. You're doing a service for them. A lot of people I've noticed really respect like just the hustle, you know? And so I've noticed that a lot of people right off the bat are like, oh, it's cool that you're doing this, you know, to make extra money, to do this on the side. So that was my first sale. And I used this tactic multiple times. So then after I was in solar for a while, I started a marketing company. I got my first 3 clients in marketing, all from rideshare. Just natural conversations. Turns out they were business owners. You know, we started talking about advertising and what they were doing. Got them to do a small trial with me. So anything you have that has a low barrier of entry, for instance, no money down, a cheaper trial, that's gonna be a great thing to sell. Now, when you really think about it, if you can get to a point where you're making like 2K, you're nearly at 6 figures. And if you're at 2,500 a week, then you're over. You know, now you've made it. So the way I looked at it, especially before I started really making money, was I want to make at least 500 bucks a week part-time. And that was essentially bare minimum to cover all my bills. Now, granted, I'm a single guy, no wife, no kids. You know, I just lived in an apartment at the time, so my overhead was very low, which definitely helps, I won't lie. And I don't have a lot of strings attached to me, especially at that time, so I'm not gonna lie, that helps. These are all tougher things to do if you have a family. But the reality is, I know that this Uber and Lyft income really isn't cutting it for most of you, if not all of you. There's just no way. It's just not good enough money. So you need to start thinking about something you can do on the side to make additional income, and you need to leverage these connections you're making day in and day out. If you want to start a social media channel, phenomenal. This is a great way to get a nice base of followers. If you're giving, you know, 40 to 50 rides a week, maybe more if you're driving a lot, you should be able to get 5 to 10% of those people to shoot you a follow. And if you've got good content or what you're doing is good, that's gonna stack and spread very quickly. But the way you need to look at it is, I need to make 2K a week. And then you're very close. You're very close. What is that? Like 96K a year, I think. So you're very close to the 6-figure mark. And if you can make, you know, 500-600 of that a week off Uber and Lyft, and 500-600 is relatively easier to make. I mean, you could do that just on weekends, you know, and then free up your entire week for, maybe it's some training, maybe it's like you're just watching a ton of YouTube videos. I don't know what it is. But long story short, guys, this is the path on how you do make serious money doing this. I really recommend you guys look into some type of side gig, sales, marketing, anything like that. And anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Definitely check out Solo. Get that free $10 for signing up. And stay tuned for more updates.